Hey guys, Everseen here. So I'm back from the dead. Gonna be playing the League Start today, and I've been kind of lost on what to play because obviously there's been a lot of changes, a lot of nerfs. Yeah, the patch notes are a bloodbath. I was expecting a second bloodbath in terms of the skills and the modifications to all of their numbers, but they actually haven't released that. And I think it's just going to be like a launch scenario where we just kind of have to roll with the punches, see what's good, what's not. But anyway, I have been thinking about doing a Bone Storm Tactician, which you basically use Bone Storm as a crazy clearing ability with permanent pin. So pin, and then monsters can't perform their actions when pin. I think that's going to be extremely broken. And as well, all you need for unique on that build is basically a Snake Pit. And before you get Snake Pit, because Snake Pit basically allows you to fork projectiles, which gives you tons of clear, you just use the fork support gem because it actually got a buff because it was 50% less damage and now I believe it's 30% less. So that build looks really good, buffed across the board. I had a friend of mine in the guild played this to 96 in HCSSF, so it's actually a really strong build. He played on a Witch Hunter, so I'm thinking about maybe playing that at some point. Seems really interesting. But the other two builds that I've been kind of looking at are, one was the Warcry Warbringer, which is like Skadoosh's build that he made. Looks really good, looks really cool for scaling. Warbringer got buffed across the board, so that's like a really good candidate. And Warcry Warrior basically has tons of sustain, and it's also just like really good for clear. So was thinking about that, but ultimately I think I landed on the Smith of Kitava because I really want to play this Ascendancy because it reminds me the most of Chieftain in POE1. And Chieftain is my personal favorite Ascendancy in POE1, so I really like kind of want to play Smith of Kitava. It looks very versatile, so you can kind of respec nodes where you need things. Like if you need more stun threshold, just go into stun threshold with the whole body armor situation. The nice thing too is like you get tons of regen on that class because you can get the 5% regen, and you can also wear an expert steel plate, which it's probably not named that now, but you can wear that for additional regen, so you can get an implicit with regen on a white chest, but then you also get this 5% regen. So that's going to be really good for sustain, and I think I want to play, I'm sure all of you have seen the Carnarius video, it like close to the league start, where basically he was using Mace Strike and exploding entire screens with it, and this was just untouched, like nothing really got touched with that. They did actually end up updating the patch notes a little bit to do this line right here, which is all sources of strikes dealing splash damage to targets now have a radius of 1.5 meters, previously 1.8 meters. There's been a lot of clearing issues, I guess, like for the area of effect and meter radiuses and stuff. Like there's Impact Shockwave now has less radius, right? And then Magnified Effect also got hit, so that's less area of effect. But the thing about Warrior is that we have access to so many area of effect nodes on the tree that I think that this is just going to be like nothing has changed. So yeah, for clearing, Mace Strike looks crazy, and then Perfect Strike for bosses, because Perfect Strike is pretty much like untouched in my opinion. I know this like basically it doesn't always ignite anymore, but if you just pick up some ignite chance, like especially in the end game, like you're going to be fine. And most of the time when you're trying to pick up fire damage nodes, like you're getting chance to ignite along the way, so it's like really not that bad. Like here you've got 30% chance to ignite, and then 12% of physical damage is extra fire damage, just as an example. Yes, you could do burning enemies damage or whatever, but like yeah, you get the point. So yeah, let's go over basically all of the changes that I think are going to be you know, integral to my playthrough on Warrior. So basically the whole reason why I picked Warrior is because of this right here. So player base ailment threshold is now half of maximum life, previously all of maximum life. So this means that you're going to be inflicted with ailments a lot more now. And I feel like without having access to tons of immunities, like you can get immunities in the game now, like Pathfinder just got it, and then as well as this class, you can get unaffected by Ignite on your chest piece. But, you know, like this class is the only one that's going to get 90 all res, and the more resistance and the more max resistance you have to elemental ailments, the less you're going to get inflicted by those. So that's also why I wanted to play Smith of Kitava, because I think it's going to be pretty comfy getting into maps with 90 max all res. And also we've got armor on all monsters has been reduced by 30%, so this is just really good for physical attack builds, so looking forward to that. But yeah, let's just go through the changes that I've kind of highlighted here. Rolling Slam has plus 1 second to total attack time, previously 1.5 seconds, so it's almost a 50% increase in actual like attack speed. And then another neat thing that I'm seeing on POE2 DB is that if you look at this section here of the skill, it says its cost and then it says attack speed. Well, here it says its level, its cost. This is 0.1, right? So it has no attack speed, which is 65% of base. So what this means is that whatever attack speed you have, Rolling Slam is actually going to get additional attack speed based on your base attack speed, is how I make sense of it. So another example of this is like Perfect Strike, where they nerfed it. So it was 45% of base, and now it's 35% of base. So basically, you're just going to be doing Perfect Strike slower because also martial tempo got hit by like 5%. But yeah, this looks like an extremely big buff, actually, because Rolling Slam, you know, was lacking really bad for Warrior. So, you know, 1.5 seconds, now it's +1, and then it also has 65% of base attack speed. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. As well as Impact Shockwave has a little bit of hit to its radius, which honestly, it was too crazy to begin with. Just doing like the speed runs. I mean, obviously, and Gormus did, you know, act 1 to 3 Warrior in like 2 and 12 minutes or something, like 2 hours 12 minutes. So like, and he was doing it mostly because of this support gem, because just the amount of clear that he was able to get on Bone Shatter, especially too on bosses. Like sometimes when bosses have adds like Executioner, you're using Impact Shockwave and getting a huge damage boost because of this huge radius on it. So you know, 1.8 from 2.0 is like really nothing, especially with all the Warrior area of effect nodes. So I'm really not too worried about that. And here's like the bigger one, I guess, is like Perfect Strike no longer always ignites. But if you did look at like any speedruns played on the Warrior, or if you played Perfect Strike yourself, you know that when you actually were bossing in the campaign, most of it was the initial hit, like most of your damage. And yeah, you do get a little bit of supplemental ignite damage, but most of it's your initial hit. So I think that, you know, Perfect Strike being completely untouched damage-wise makes it that you're just going to do tons of damage still. So I'm ultimately going to be going for the Perfect Strike route. I never actually did that in my first playthrough on League Star, and I paid the price for it because Warrior actually feels like complete shit without Perfect Strike. But it's untouched, so it feels good. And now, you know, it's a little bit slower and whatever, so that's fine. But yeah, you get Ignite Chance, so that actually helps too. This is more as well, so this is multiplicative. So any increases you get, you're going to get 20% more from all of those increases. Yeah, you lose a bit of magnitude of Ignite, but whatever, you could pick it up on the tree if you really wanted to. But this skill already at higher levels did absolutely ridiculously insane damage, so I'm not too worried about it. And, you know, like, it's just a boss killer. And I think it'll be fine. But yeah, and now it deals damage in a wider area closer to the player, making it less likely to miss enemies standing next to the player. So this is actually a buff because, you know, this skill was harder to hit. And if you can get your timings down, then you're definitely going to hit it a lot. Some support gem changes are like Martial Tempo now has, you know, less attack speed given. You know, 5% less is actually quite a nerf, because it's multiplicative with 20% more. 25% more is multiplicative, right? So like it is a hit, but I think it'll be fine. Concentrated effect, we've got, you know, less damage, definitely hits your damage a bit because all of these are multiplicative. They are not additive. So these are actually pretty big hits, but it's fine overall. I think we'll be fine. It's just you're going to do less damage overall. Brutality now is 25% more physical damage, previously 35%, same kind of deal. And then Magnified Effect actually got a cost multiplier increase, which kind of sucks. And then also less area of effect, which sucks, but we can supplement this with the Warrior skill tree. Fully Broken Armor now causes enemies to take 20% physical damage taken from hits. This is actually pretty nice. It's too bad it doesn't say more, but I think more would be kind of busted. But it would be kind of nice because, you know, breaking armor is sort of a chore in this game, unless you're playing something like Warbringer that always has that. Yeah, and then all sources of strike, you know, 1.5 meter radius, we were talking about this, it was previously 1.8. I think 1.5 is still a ridiculous radius. I think it's still really, really good. And then another thing too is like Herald of Ash I want to talk about, because a lot of people know that Herald of Ash was completely trash in 0.1. But now it's got a buff to its radius, which is nice. And this scales with your area of effect on Warrior as well. So, you know, this is giving us way better clear, I think. And then Herald of Ash quality now provides an additional percentage of overkill damage, contributes to basic night damage. I don't really understand fully if this matters or not. I really don't think it matters too much. But, you know, it's better than it, you know, was actively detrimental is what they were saying. So I think it's a buff anyway, so that's good. And then the biggest one, really, for melee builds is the mana cost for all attacks, marks, and war cries have been reduced, most notably at higher gem levels. So this is nice. If you're getting maces with plus to gem levels, now it's not so much of a hindrance. More so, it's going to enable your build to do more damage. So that's really good and a really good buff. All right, so for the Ascendancy, so just the Smith of Kitava, we'll look at it real quick. Basically, what I'm going to be going for is against the Anvil first, and then Coal Stoker and Forged in Flame. The 4th Ascendancy, I'm not really going to put it there with this configuration because I'm probably going to respec before I even do the 4th Ascendancy anyway. Or, you know, I will use these 3 until I get my 4th, and then I'll respec into all this. So let's look at that. So against the Anvil is Grant Skill Temper Weapon. So Temper Weapon actually looks pretty good, especially for a 1st Ascendancy, because this is just giving us more empowered damage. So you know, we're also getting Combust on hit, which I'm pretty sure Combust is really good for fire damage, and we're going to be doing predominantly fire damage with Perfect Strike in the beginning. And as you can see, the attack damage actually gives you a ton. 175 to 714. I don't really know exactly how this works. I guess it's per level. I guess it has a level, so this is probably, you know, an Ascendancy skill. Like, not probably, it is an Ascendancy skill, so I assume it works like Concoctions or all these other skills where they scale with your player level. So this is actually going to be like a pretty high level while you're progressing. And as you can see, like the damage numbers actually look really good in like terms of each level up. So the percentages look good. This is just added bonus, and you're just getting more fire damage, which is going to help Perfect Strike. I just think this is going to be really good in combination with like Infernal Cry, for example. Yeah, I just think this is like early game is just going to give Warrior even more damage, honestly. And then another thing too is the whole defenses of the Ascendancy. It's going to be like Coal Stoker and Forged in Flame. These are going to be two mandatory Ascendancy nodes, in my opinion, because they're so simply strong. Modifiers to fire resistance also grant cold and lightning resistance at 50% of the value. Say if you had 50% fire resistance on a chest piece, you would get 25% cold and 25% lightning resistance. So that's really, really big for gearing, especially in the early game. Just even if you wanted to take these 2 points, you're getting fire resistance, which is then giving you 7 and 8 cold and lightning, whatever, 7.5, I guess, but in PoE it always rounds down, so you get 7% cold and lightning. So this is a really good node. You know, obviously you could go for this first if you want. I think I'm gonna go for Temper Weapon because I want the crazy damage and I think it'll be fun. And then this will be my 2nd Ascendancy, and then Forged in Flame will be the 3rd Ascendancy because we can get modifiers to maximum fire resistance, also grant that to maximum cold and lightning resistance. There are tons of maximum fire resistance nodes on the tree. Maximum fire resistance. And you can get it on jewels, so it's really cool too. But the one thing, I mean, it's not tons, I guess, but you can probably get max all resistance. Yeah, so this would give you a fire resistance as well, right? So that's like 3 max fire resist right there for 3 points. And then the biggest thing down here is really like, this is what I was waiting for this to come, this whole chieftain sort of node. So basically in POE1, these 2 Ascendancy nodes exist, and it's on an Ascendancy there, so I have a lot of experience using this, and I was waiting because I saw this on release, this node here, and knew that it would be useless until something like this was released into the game. So Unnatural Resilience is really good because this gives us 2 to maximum fire resistance for each 40% uncapped fire resistance. So for example, let's just take like 3 gear pieces, say they are 30% fire resistance each. That gives us 90% fire resistance. Now, one thing that this enables you to do with all of this fire resistance giving cold and lightning, this frees up suffixes on your gear to get, say, life regen or chaos resistance or whatever have you, but it just makes the gearing process a lot easier, and you're going to have a ridiculous amount of fire resistance. No matter what, you're going to have tons of fire resistance. So the nice thing is that we can use that, and every time you go over your cap, so by 40%. So basically, if you have 75%, but then you have 115 fire res instead, then you're actually getting 2 maximum fire res from that, and then it just keeps going from there. Every 40% that you have for uncapped fire resistance, you will get +2 max res. So really strong. And then you can also go for uniques like that belt that gives you +5 max fire res too, which is really strong. So that's kind of my setup for the early game, is going to be, you know, against the Anvil, into Coal Stoker, and then into Forged in Flame. And then what I want to do for a respec is go, you know, I want to go basically, I meant to write it down, but I didn't. I'll just talk about it. So I would go Coal Stoker into Forged in Flame, and then basically you're going to be using Smith's Masterwork with 4 points into any of these buffs. So the buffs that I really like that stand out to me are Body Armor grants armor applies to chaos damage taken from hits. This is actually pretty strong, especially if you don't have a lot of chaos resistance. So if you're just hitting maps and you have the really low chaos resistance, this might be a really good thing to substitute in. But the main things that I want to be going for are 25% Fizz to Fire, because once we get 90 max fire res, 25% physical damage is going to be 90% mitigated, which is an extremely good defensive layer. And on top of having armor, this is going to help us a lot with our mitigation. I want 15% max life, because that's just going to be nuts. And then 5% life regen, and then also 20% increased strength. So an Expert Steel Plate can give you up to a maximum of 2.5% life regen per second, and you can just wear it white and benefit from the implicit, right? So that's really strong in conjunction with this, because then we have a base 7.5% life regenerated a second, which is pretty nuts, and this will scale really well in the end game. You'll probably see, you know, upwards of like 1,000 to 1,200 life regen. And the thing about life regen and maximum resistances, especially in POE1, is Chieftain was really good with life regeneration. So I prefer life regeneration builds. I don't really like leech builds that much, because I have better confidence in having regeneration than leech, especially in a hardcore scenario. So having this life regeneration on top of the max res is like hand in hand. So like having one without the other kind of sucks, but having 90% mitigation on all these elemental hits, as well as having Giga Regeneration, is going to give us crazy sustain, especially when we're leap slamming and getting Consecrated Ground through the support gem. We're just going to have crazy like life regeneration, and we're going to have big damage, because we're going to be able to just sit still and do damage to bosses and whatever. And then we're also going to do 20% increased strength, because I assume that Giant's Blood is just going to be super integral to the build. So, you know, we obviously have to get tons of attributes. 20% increased strength on a body armor is a pretty nice buff to getting, you know, your strength requirements. So it's not that bad. Those kind of seem like mandatory to me. But yeah, like low chaos res, go for armor applies to chaos damage taken from hits. I mean, you can obviously go early game. You can go body armor grants 75 to fire resistance, because that would actually be insane. Like as a second ascendancy, for an example, if you went Coal Stoker first and then took the 75% fire resistance, you're getting like 75 fire resistance to cap you instantly pretty much. And then you're getting half of that as cold and lightning resistance. So you basically just fly through the campaign, because you have so much defense. Because normally going through the campaign having resistances is kind of hell. So and then you can also do body armor grants 100% increased stun threshold. This is going to be like really good for you know, just niche situations, maybe for bosses, maybe for whatever. But and then also crit damage reduction bonus looks really good too. And then the max fire res one, I mean, it looks good maybe for early on, but like that's the cool thing about Smith of Kitava, is all of these nodes are just like mix and match. Like it's not hard. It might take like 20k gold and you can just refund a point, take another one. Like it's super nice to be able to do this early game too, like having this max fire resistance, because this is basically plus 5% to all elemental resistances. So that's really strong. So yeah, that's pretty much my whole plans for Smith of Kitava. I don't really have anything else I want to talk about. But yeah, the whole classic leveling portion of this is going to be Rolling Slam into Bone Shatter. Bone Shatter got untouched. So it's basically just radius stuff got touched. So we just have to invest a little bit more into Area of Effect. So like we'll just look here, Area of Effect, especially in the beginning. You know, you've got these nodes here. One, that's like 23% Area of Effect. And then you can get more over here if you want. That's 30%. That's crazy. You can go over here and get 16. This is 32% increased area of effect. All like this is all in the start. Like this is all like Act 1, Act 2 for area of effect. Now I know you're going to lose some damage, but if you need the area of effect for things like Bone Shatter and the clear and whatever, you can pick it. And then you can also go here for area of effect. We've got area of effect up here, and then we've also got area of effect down here if you want to invest. So yeah, end game basically I'm going to be taking probably this as well. all of this, and then as well as pathing through this, and then yeah, just going straight up fire damage, everything fire, and doing Mace Strike, exploding screens. So yeah, should be fun. But yeah, good luck with your guys' league starts. I do want to try the new Huntress. I might try an Amazon at some point, but I don't think it's really like league startable. And then also, you know, Ranger, I kind of really wanted to play because I did a lot of practice on it. I'm not sure if I want to just try Pathfinder just for the defenses and try like a lightning build, because there are some cool lightning things to be done, I think. And there's also like new skills coming out. Lightning Spear looks really cool too on the Huntress. So looking forward to trying some new stuff. But yeah, I think we're like really hard gutted. But at the same time, I feel like, you know, it's just like any other PoE league. We're just going to find strong things. We'll gravitate towards the strong things. Those will get nerfed. Other things will get buffed, and so on and so forth. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, that's been about that for me. I'll be live later today, and we'll be just chugging away on Warrior, and good luck.